Hello everyone, my today's video is on inflation. In this video, we will see how is inflation calculated and then what's the difference between core inflation and normal inflation. We'll also review the inflation data from last couple of years and then look at what can we expect in next 6 months with respect to inflation. And finally, we'll also look at if inflation goes up and down, how it will impact the price of commodities. So with that, let's look at how is inflation calculated and what actually is inflation. So here is the consumer price index data. In this video, I'm sharing the Canadian data from Stats Canada. So all the numbers that I'm using are for Canadian market. According to Stats Canada, you can find all this information on Stats Canada website. They have published all these numbers here. So all items, then this is the overall CPI number, then food, shelter, housing operations, so on. There's a huge list here. And then here is the month by month numbers for the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. So this is the data that I have used in this video. Now let's look at how is inflation calculated. So inflation is calculated month over month. So what it means is that they are comparing the data for this month compared to what the reading or the data was for this month last year. So let's say now we are in December, so let's look at November data. So assume that November data was 153, the CPI number, and last year the November data was, let's say, 145. So how inflation is calculated, they will be subtracting the current month's data from the last year same month's data. So what it means is December 2020 data minus November 2022 data minus November 2021 data divided by the November 2021 data. So, and it's in percentage, and then that's how it is calculated. So it shows it's 5.5%. So this is how it's calculated. Now let's look at what is core inflation and normal inflation. So now that we know how inflation is calculated, let's see what is the difference between core inflation and a normal inflation. So overall inflation includes the price of goods, services, food, fuel, everything that we consume, right? And then core inflation is the one that do not include the price of food and fuel. So gasoline or diesel prices, and then some of the very volatile food items are not included in core inflation. That's why those two numbers are different. And now let's review the inflation data from last couple of years. The first data I'm comparing is for 2018 and 19. The blue line here is the 2018 data, and the red line is the 2019 data. These numbers, as I showed you from Stats Canada website, these numbers are coming from that website. So in 2018 and 19, you do see that these lines are almost parallel to each other, right? So that's how you want to see your inflation or your CPI numbers, that they are kind of in parallel to each other. And this is what the inflation was, as I mentioned in the video how it's calculated. So from January it was 1.4, 1.5 in February, and high was in May of 2019, which was at 2.4%. But overall, if we look at the average inflation for year 2018 and 19. So year 2019 comparing to 2018 was almost at 2%. That's how we want the data to look like. As I mentioned, both the lines look very much parallel to each other. Now this is the 2019 and 2020 data. The blue line here is now 2019 and the red line is the 2020 data. Everything was going smoothly until March when the pandemic started. So all you can see here is when the pandemic started, how it impacted the overall CPI number. So the CPI numbers dropped, and in April when we had that lockdown happening all around the world, the CPI numbers actually became negative. So instead of inflation, we started having negative inflation that continued for 2 months, April and May, and after that it kind of became the numbers became positive, but they were not very far off. So this is the percentage change. As I mentioned, in January and February of 2020, the data still looked good, but comes March, when the pandemic started, March, April, May, it went down. April and May was actually negative inflation, inflation. So that's what happened when the lockdown happened around the world. After that, when the economy of the stock market recovered, we saw very almost negligible inflation, like 0.5% or 0.7%. So this is how the data looked back in 19 and 20. Now let's look at 2020 and 21 data. So here is this is the 2020 data and this is the 2021 data. You see how these two lines are diverging from each other. They were very close here, but after the pandemic, the recovery was slow and we didn't see too much inflation happening. It was like 0.1, 0.5, 0.7. The highest we had was only 1%, which was here, right? So it was very moderate inflation. But comes 2021, the prices of commodities started going higher. The CPI number started increasing. And what it created was a huge difference between the 2020 and 2021 data. And that's what triggered the inflation and the situation that we are in today. So it was, I would say it was June of 2021 where we got the red signal to see that the numbers are because 2020 was relatively flat and 2021 was going high. So this was a red flag saying, something is happening to our economy or to inflation, and the government or the federal banks should do some kind of intervention. Here is the percentage change for 2020 and 21. Initially, it started well, but after that, April onwards, so if you see the numbers here, in June we were at April we started going above 3%, and up to June we were like at 3.1, 3.6%, and then in July it was 3.7, and from here on, actually after June it started going higher and higher. So the commodity prices kept increasing, and then the inflation started going higher. In December 2021, we were at 4.8%. So, this looking at this, the one of the reasons that we are seeing high inflation is because 2020 we didn't had any inflation. It was pretty much close to like 0.5%, I would say. So because 2020 was such a flat year for the CPI numbers, we are seeing the impact of that and that flatness now in the 2021 data. Now let's look at 2021 and 2022 data. So this was the 2021 data, which looked very aggressive when we compared it to 2020. Now look 2021. So when we look at 2022 data, the 2021 data looks that it wasn't increasing that rapidly, but see what happened in 2022. The inflation skyrocketed, and look at the difference between these two lines. It's increasing, and this is not a good sign, right? When the diversion or the difference between these two lines is increasing, and here some it kind of from here on, from August on, it wasn't increasing significantly, but it kind of started becoming parallel to each other. So far, we have number for October. I have just put November and December number, assuming that if it's coming at 153.8, then how will it look like? But as of now, now when I'm making this video, we only have number for October 2022 published by Stats Canada. So the October number was 153.8, and then when we compare it to the October 2021 data, which was at 143.9, and that's as I mentioned, inflation is calculated. This is the percentage change between 2021 and 2022. As you can see from this data, the difference between these two lines was increasing until we were in June. And if we look at this year, this is how it showed the inflation was increasing. The gap between 2021 and 2022 lines were increasing, so was the percentage. And June was the top with 8.1%. After June, we have seen that the data started squeezing, the lines started squeezing together and becoming more parallel. They haven't come too close yet, but they are kind of coming closer, and that's what you can see here, that the CPI numbers are now kind of flattening with 7%, 6.9, 6.9. So this is August, September, October. We have only up to here the data. Now these numbers are based on if for November and December, if we get the same CPI number, which is 153.8. This is already there, but these numbers are unknown. So that's where, if we get those numbers, then we will be seeing that this inflation is actually now stabilizing. Now, this is what we can see until now, but what's going to happen in next couple of months, next 6 months, and that's the next thing in the video I wanted to discuss. So when we start comparing the data from 2022 to 2023, what can we expect? Let's look at it. The blue line is the 2022 data, so we are all the way up to October that we know the numbers. For 2023, we do not have any number, so what I'm assuming that we get a number which is pretty close or is exactly same as what we have in November, which is October, which is 153.8. So assuming that this number of 153.8 or somewhere close to is the kind of inflation or CPI number that we will be getting, and that's the assumption this analysis is based on. So assuming these are the numbers or somewhere close to these numbers that we get in next year, what will happen? The distance between these two lines is decreasing. The reason is because 2021 was rising so rapidly, but in 2023, if the CPI numbers do not increase or rise rapidly, we will see that these two lines will come close to each other, and at one point of time, maybe they may even intersect or may even go down, creating a negative inflation. So what can we see based on it? We can see based on it is that this is January. Comes April, we may be looking at data which is at 2.6%. May will be 1.2, and June will be 0.6%. As you mentioned, if this data do not increase a lot, we may see inflation coming down to 3% somewhere in mid of next year, so June, July of next year. Again, assuming these numbers do not change rapidly and these two lines comes close to each other. So now that we have seen the data from previous years and what we can expect next year, um, do you think that if the inflation comes to 2% or under 2% or 3%, whatever the target is, right? Will the price of commodities come down? That's the interesting question. And what I'm understanding looking at these numbers is that even if we pay what we are paying today, that is 153.8 CPI number, if we continue to pay this, like, yeah, sure, for some areas, some commodities we may pay less, for some commodities we may pay more, but if we get an average number of overall number of 153.8, so we are spending exactly the same amount that we are spending today, and we will be spending same amount next year in June, May, June, July, but the inflation will come down to 2%. So basically, if looking at what we see now, if the banks do not increase interest rate and they keep it steady and do not and just wait and watch, then what will happen is this miracle, right? The inflation will come down by itself. And the reason is because in 2022, the prices or the number of CPI number rose so significantly that this will, when compared to 2023, it will, the change, percentage change will become, 2% or less than 2%. So my assumption is that even though the inflation comes down to 2% in numbers, but in actually we may be spending the same amount of dollars that we are spending today. Okay, so now that we have seen how inflation is calculated, how inflation has behaved in the past, and what we can expect in the next 6 months, in 2021, the numbers, sorry, in 2022, the numbers were so high, already so high. So if we end up paying same amount of money in next year, we will see inflation coming down to 2%. But the money that we spend will be same as of today. I hope you found this video to be informative and helpful in understanding inflation and how inflation is calculated and what to expect in coming months from inflation. Do let me know in comments if you feel there could be another way to measure inflation, or how do you feel about the way it is currently measured, like month over month compared to the previous year. So I'll be really interested in knowing your thoughts and comments. Let me know. And also please like and share this video as much as possible. And also, if you would like me to create second part of this video in where I will share what are other ways in which we can calculate inflation. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.